We'll pick up right where we left off with step 2 of the merchandise planning process, which is developing an assortment plan. So we've gone through step 1, which was forecasting how many of a product category we're going to need. So now we're going to develop our assortment plan, which looks at the set of SKUs that a retailer is going to offer in each merchandise category in each store and on their website if they have one. So the assortment plan reflects the breadth and the depth of the merchandise category. So in step 1, we might have forecasted that we're going to need 500 pairs of blue jeans. Blue jeans was our product category. Now in step 2, we're going to develop that assortment plan, which looks at all of the different styles, sizes, and colors that we're going to offer within that product category. And so as part of this assortment plan, we're going to, of course, edit our assortment, which is the process of determining the variety for each of these merchandise categories. So again, we're looking at the different styles, sizes, and colors. And there's a few things that we need to consider when we begin to edit our assortment. The first is our retail strategy. So if we think about grocery stores, a Kroger and an Aldi are going to have two very different assortments, and that's because they have two very different retail strategies. Aldi has a limited number of SKUs because their customers are looking for low prices and they aren't necessarily brand loyal. And so Aldi can offer maybe just 2 sizes and 1 brand of green beans, whereas Kroger is going to offer 4 sizes amongst 10 different brands of green beans. So they're going to have a much bigger assortment. So strategy definitely plays a role. Consider a candy store and an office supply store. An office supply store might have very few candy bar SKUs because it is not one of their main merchandise categories. A candy store, however, is going to have a lot of candy bar SKUs because it is one of their main product categories. So retail strategy is something we have to consider when we edit our assortment. Another thing to consider when editing our assortment are the effects on buying behavior. So larger assortments or having lots of options does provide some benefits to the customer. An increased number of SKUs makes it easier for the customer to find what they're looking for. And large assortments tend to provide a more informative and stimulating shopping experience for the customer because they do have more to look at and compare and choose from. Now, on the opposite hand, large assortments can make the shopping experience very complex. It can also make the shopping experience very time-consuming, and some shoppers don't like that. So that goes back to your retail strategy. So you have to consider whether having a large or a small assortment is going to be best for your shoppers. Another thing to consider when you're editing assortment are the physical characteristics of your store. Sometimes your store is a very small footprint. If you are in a specialty store, potentially in a lifestyle center or a shopping mall, you're going to have fewer square feet, which means you physically cannot hold a very large assortment. Category specialist and full-line discount stores tend to have a lot of space, so they can offer a much bigger assortment. So after we have developed our assortment and edited it, we are going to move on to step 3 of the merchandise planning process, and that is setting our inventory and our product availability levels. And so now we're looking at how many of each number of product is going to be available at each of our stores. And so retailers generally start setting their inventory by developing model stock plans. And model stock plans show the number of each SKU that the buyer wants to have available for purchase for each category of merchandise that they have in the store. So this model stock plan, we're continuing with the blue jean example here. This model stock plan is based on size and length of blue jeans. Now, an actual model stock plan is built in some computer software, and it's much more complex than this, but this just gives you an idea of how it works. And so When you're developing your model stock plan, generally retailers will not do this for each and every store, but they're going to classify their stores by size, generally by selling square footage, in order to create 8 or 10 model stock plans that will be applicable to all of their stores across the country. So when you're developing that model stock plan and you're trying to determine the number of each SKU that you're going to have, there's one very important thing you have to do, and that is to avoid breaking sizes. So the main goal of a retailer is to move the merchandise variety together so that customers will not be disappointed when they can't find their specific size. So again, if we're thinking of blue jeans here, a retailer needs to order the correct amount of each size in each style so that the styles will sell out on or around the same time. The definition of breaking sizes is to stock out of a specific size or color of a SKU. So you might, if you're thinking of jeans, generally sizes 8 and 10 deplete first for women's jeans. And so retailers will make sure that they stock a large amount of size 8 and 10 in the store. So while you might order, as you can see on your screen, you might order more pairs of those sizes than you do of, say, size 0 or 2. So when you are working through setting your inventory and you've worked to determine how you're going to avoid not breaking sizes, this is when you actually start to set product availability levels. Now, product availability is a percentage, and it's defined as the percentage of demand for a particular SKU that can be satisfied by the retailer. So a retailer's goal is not always 100% when it comes to product availability. Think of it this way. If 100 people go into the store with the intention of buying an item, but the retailer only has 90 items available, that product availability becomes 90%. Okay, so we don't necessarily want to fulfill 100% product availability for every product because we don't have enough room in our store. So as a retailer, we have to determine what our product availability is going to be. Let's think about a grocery store for a second. A product like milk probably will have 100% availability. If 100 people walk into the grocery store, each person is going to be able to buy a gallon of milk. Let's think about Kroger brand green beans. A product like Kroger brand green beans might only have a product availability of 75%. So what this means is 75 people will go into the Kroger store and be able to buy Kroger green beans. The other 25 people who want to buy Kroger green beans are not going to be able to. So I want you to think about why Kroger would find it acceptable to have only a 75% availability of Kroger green beans. We'll discuss the answer to that question in the discussion boards for Chapter 12. I also want you to think about Kroger brand pure vanilla extract. A product like Kroger brand pure vanilla extract is probably only going to have a product availability of 40%, meaning that if 100 customers go into Kroger and are looking for vanilla extract, only 40 people are going to be able to buy it. So again, I want you to think about why Kroger is okay with only letting 40 of 100 customers be able to buy that product. And we'll discuss that in the discussion boards together after some conversation gets going. After you've had some time to think about product availability and why it's acceptable to have less than 100%, see if you can identify another retailer and products that they might set at different levels of availability. So I have a question posed up here, and we will look at this question in the discussion boards, and we'll look at it again when we pick up in a later video. But if you are a buyer at Old Navy and you've received a number of customer complaints that you are out of stock on some sizes of men's t-shirts, and you suddenly decide to increase the product availability from 80 to 90%, what do you think the impact will be? And then think about that in terms of a men's fleece sweatshirt. So if you increase the product availability from 80 to 90%, what's the impact going to be on the retailer? So again, both of these questions we will talk about in the discussion board, and I'll add some commentary as you guys start the discussion for Chapter 12.